The Clippers crumbled against the Nuggets in round 2. The latest report from Shams stating that Paul George asked for his teammates' commitment after the Clippers were eliminated, and that speech was met with eye rolls and bewilderment from some in the locker room, and that sentence I just said was met with eye rolls and a laugh from Nick Wright, who is currently still laughing. Broussard, let's start with you. What did you make of this report?
Hi, Chris. Well, look, first of all, I believe the Lakers are going to win the championship. But for Nick Wright, they better win the championship because of the way he is handling the Clippers right now. But I'm going to say this. Look, I've heard similar things. I've heard that because of Paul George's inconsistent play, it's difficult for his teammates to put up with his platitudes. All right, he had 2 10-point games against Denver, a 9 and an 11-point game against Dallas. So they really don't want to hear him talking about, giving speeches in the locker room when they see your max player, former MVP candidate, perennial all-star playing like that. So that is a problem. I've heard the same type of things. I've also been told that some of the role players on the team actually think they're as good as Paul George. So they are having problems with the special treatment that he's gotten from Doc Rivers. They can handle Kawhi getting the special treatment because for the most part, but for a couple games against Denver, obviously, he delivered. You know what you were getting from him. But Paul Pierce was kind of up and down, and I'm told some guys think they're just as good as him. So that is a problem. This is something they're going to have to work through, obviously, over the offseason and for next season.
Everyone should read this article because it's more than just, the eye rolls about Paul George's platitudes. This whole article is just got Easter egg after Easter egg of, well, what were you expecting? It starts with some of the players were mad at Doc Rivers for not playing a bigger lineup against Jokic, and that they thought JaMychal Green should have gotten more minutes. Folks, JaMychal Green was not the answer in that series. Sorry to tell you. And this idea of, well, who's the big guy you wanted to play more? The Clippers were built like an all-time great 6'8" and under team. Like it's Zubats, and then it's the smoky whatever's left of Joakim Noah. Like they didn't have big people. It was a problem all year. And the other quote from Paul George on the record, which is ultimately we just didn't have enough time together. That, to me, falls totally hollow when you look at who's left in the bubble. Denver got to the bubble with such a mash unit, they had to play a 4-center lineup. Remember that game we were talking about when it was Bol and friends because they only had 7 healthy players? The Lakers added Anthony Davis, Danny Green, Avery Bradley, Markieff Morris, all to their rotation in the last year. The Heat, who have played better than anyone in the Eastern Conference, maybe anyone in the whole playoffs on either side, added Jimmy Butler. Who else they had? Tyler Hero's a rookie. Duncan Robinson barely played last year. Jay Crowder and Andre Iguodala came across mid-season. So they're just excuses. It's all excuses for a team whose stars didn't deliver in the biggest moments, whose coach once again blew a 3-1 lead, and whose other role players, if we're being candid, think they're better than they are. As much as Paul George struggled, if anyone other than Kawhi Leonard thinks they're as good as Paul George, Wilds, who on that team can say they think they're as good as Paul George? Lemon Pepper Lou and his turnstile defense?
That's what I assume.
Pat Beverly and his 30% three-point shooting? Montrezl Harrell and his all-effort 6th man of the year, good for him, but can't rebound, can't play D. Like, come on. Like, who are these guys? So it's a lot of excuses, Brandon, for a team that I think everyone felt, wildly underachieved and had their season end in total disgrace.
Yeah. I was wanting to say, you know what, let's get into the offseason. Let's have some conversations and figure out how we move forward together. I don't think you do that. You blow it up right now. You keep Doc, you keep Kawhi, obviously, you keep Paul George. That is your core. You can't get better than that, right? You gotta bank on that Paul George will bounce back. But everybody else, you blow it up. Because when you have these issues in the locker room, you have no chance. I don't care how good you are. When the locker room is fractured, you have no chance. We're seeing it on the other end, the Celtics. The Celtics, they have a disagreement in the locker room, but then they come out and win a game. And then they're at the pool hanging out, dancing, wrestling each other. So you can tell that that team is together. They have chemistry. They have continuity. This team doesn't have that. And the reason why is because it's bigger than just, we're not seeing the floor the same way. We're not on the same page when it comes to how we're approaching defense, how we're approaching offense or load management. This is about, I'm better than my star. Right? Like if you put your money into Paul George and you got people saying that I'm better than him, then there's egos and then that's just a bad equation. Blow it up right now.
Yeah.
Take those three guys, figure it out, because you can't get better than them, Wilds. Like those are your core guys, and those three guys got to figure out, like, okay, who are we and how do we want to proceed? How do we want to move forward? And then be transparent with everybody else coming in. This is how we play ball here at the Clippers. We're embracing load management. This is how our superstars act in practice and games, and are you willing to deal with it? Those players say yes, you move forward with them. They say no, they don't have a chance.
Yeah, I don't know how good of a motivational speaker Paul George is if his big speech that warranted all these eye rolls was, hey, let's stay together and remain committed and make another run. And it's like, this guy believes in me. Paul George believes in me. I don't know what's the deal with this guy. I'll give you the flip side of it, Broussard. What if he said this, which I guess is what he's supposed to say? Collectively, I feel like we have great pieces, but it's pretty glaring. We need one more piece or two more pieces, because that's what Kyrie said, and we killed him for it. We killed him for it. That's the real answer. Paul George is saying, let's stay committed, and now he's getting killed? I don't get it at all.
Look, we can talk about players they need to add. They could use a playmaking point guard or guard. Like Nick said, they could use some more size, even add some shooting. But I'm going to give you the two things that absolutely must happen for the Clippers to reach their potential next year. One, Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers has got to hold his two stars, Kawhi and Paul George, accountable. All right? There are players in that locker room, I'm told, that are looking at Doc. You talk about rolling eyes at Paul George. They're rolling eyes at Doc, too, because they're saying you're not holding those two accountable. You're not coaching them as hard as you're coaching us, but you jump on us for the things we're doing wrong. So, Doc, that was a problem even going back to Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. DeAndre Jordan and others looked at that. You don't say anything to the stars, but you're jumping on us. So Doc has got to hold all of them, including Kawhi and Paul George, accountable and coach them hard. Secondly, Kawhi Leonard's got to show more of a commitment to the team rather than just being a mercenary. He was a mercenary in Toronto, and it worked, so he thought he could do it with the Clippers. The Clippers agreed. They thought it might work, too. But now next year he's going to have to be at practice more, be engaged more in practice. And if physically possible, he's got to scrap the load management and play roughly the entire season, 70-plus games. If that happens, they can develop chemistry. His